American Pacific Mortgage is a multi-state corporation supported by mortgage professionals who live and work here in the Treasure Valley. The office is at 8921 Hackmore Drive, just off South Maple Grove. American Pacific Mortgage treats you as an individual, not a number. They are a local equal housing lender with underwriters who know the area. Finding the right loan for you is the goal. They have a wide range of loan products: FHA, VA, refinance, home equity, and reverse mortgages for seniors. More on the web at thelendingspot.com or phone 629-4959, NMLS number 1850.
And now, your friend in the real estate business, John Adamson.
Hi folks, welcome to another edition of Property Line Today. I'm John Adamson. I'm a real estate broker. I run the Realty Center at Realty Management Associates. With me to help answer your questions today is
Curtis Mangus with American Pacific Mortgage.
And I'll tell you folks, he's one of the best lenders in town. If you have any questions on buying, selling, or investing in real estate, go to the phone right now and give us a call, 830-2557. Or you go to propertylinetoday.net, and up in the right-hand corner it says Ask a Question. Just click that, type in your question, and we'll answer your question here on the air. We like to start each show with a little news you can use if you have a home that you're trying to sell, or if you're thinking about going out buying a home, or maybe you've decided now's a great time to invest in single-family homes. Just some news that you should probably know about. One of the most interesting stories I saw this past week was headlined, "It Will Take a Village to Close a Mortgage in 2015." And then the subparagraph says, "Home loan regulations will change in August. Maybe you should get your loan now." Now, I know we talk about it, now is a good time. We say that a lot, but here's one more thing. They're changing some of the rules come August, and it's going to be more difficult to get a loan, isn't it?
Well, it's already reasonably difficult now.
Reasonably difficult.
I'm trying to be politically correct here. And you always have to be a little concerned, because every time the government steps in and tries to fix the mortgage process, first of all, everybody becomes paranoid schizophrenic. And because when people become worried, the first thing you do is slow down.
Yep.
And so they're going to slow down the process again. Anytime they try and improve and streamline things, it's automatically going to take 3 to 5 days longer. They're going to combine the truth in lending form and the good faith estimate and several of these forms together into one form. And right now, those just have to be reviewed at closing.
Right. And now they want them reviewed several days prior.
3 days before. Well, that doesn't mean things are going to get to closing 3 days sooner. That means people are going to wait 3 days longer. And unfortunately, just to give you an idea, the average closing out there in the U.S. right now takes about 44 days. That's purchases, refinances across the country. They take about 44 days. People are thinking that, you can do it in 30 if things go just perfect. They don't go perfect.
I think if you're buying a home or if you have a home for sale, you should probably figure that once you have an accepted offer,
40 days.
At least 40
days. If you plug in on or before, and if things go well, you may get it done in 30. But right now, that 40 days, when you add that extra 3 days, and if you've got a weekend in there, you just went to 45.
In this article, it says it takes a village to get a home loan through nowadays.
That's really
true.
And
it says that about 25 people are involved in each real estate transaction. And I thought that was kind of high. But then I started thinking, well, there's the realtor and maybe the realtor's assistant.
There's 4.
Okay, and then you got the buyers, and then there could be another
6
2.
or 8.
Okay. Then you've got the loan officer, the loan officer's assistant.
And processor.
Underwriter.
Doc drawer, funder.
Then you've got the escrow officer.
Compliance in the loan. We're almost at 20.
Right there.
Right off the top of our head.
We haven't talked about the
insurance agent, home inspector, appraiser, and their assistants.
Yeah.
There, we just hit 25.
Yeah, 25 people. So it does take a village to get a home loan through nowadays.
Well, and the question, and it talks a little bit in the article, that is if it closes. And most home loans close. I don't want to be too skeptical, but I had a client today, accepted offer, pre-approved, ordered the appraisal this morning, and they called up this afternoon and changed their mind and canceled the transaction, and are going to forfeit their earnest money. They just got cold feet and decided it wasn't the right time to buy. And so, unfortunately, appraisal issues come up, inspection issues come up, And there's I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but a reasonable percentage of home loans, once they get under contract on a purchase, don't close for a number of reasons.
My motto for years and years and years has been get it closed, get it closed, get it closed. Because so many things can happen. If it's closed, everything's great. But the longer it goes out, the more problems that can happen.
One of my favorite sayings is when you're doing real estate transactions, time is not your friend. All right? It is never your friend. The sooner you can, and we feel that sense of urgency, but it doesn't do any good to write a contract in 30 days and then be fighting extensions.
Well, and that's the other thing. Most of the problems that I'm seeing where people are really being damaged is because in real estate, time is of the essence, and they'll go past time. And it used to be the sellers would say, oh, you need an extra few days, no problem, we'll give you a few more days. They're not doing that nowadays. They're saying, I had to make another mortgage payment. So now the price of the house has gone up $1,200. And they're sticking their guns. I'd say over the past 2 years, if people miss deadlines, it's become quite a bit harder to get the seller to agree to those extensions unless you talk to them about it quite a bit up front. If you wait till the day it's supposed to close and want to extend it a week, you're going to get some sellers in there saying, I want some money. You're seeing that, aren't you?
Oh, sure.
And when I hear realtors upset about their favorite mortgage lender, it's normally because they've gone past the closing date.
And unfortunately, sometimes agents set unrealistic expectations for closing times. And the problem is I'm often asked by people, halfway through the transaction, well, when are we going to close on time when I don't even have the appraisal back yet? And appraisals can easily take a week, and turn times are getting longer because things are getting busier. And so until we get that appraisal back and know if we have any repairs to deal with, it makes it very hard for us to be able to know a time frame.
Well, and I don't know if you've ran into this. I've ran into it a little bit the past couple of years with the mortgage market so tight, and with you asking, and not when I say you, I mean mortgage lenders asking for so much information. I tell most buyers, now be prepared. They're going to treat you like a drug dealer, and they treat everyone that way. They kind of say, well, I gave you all the information, and you'll go down the checklist and say, well, did you give this, this, and this? It's kind of like, I gave you as much as I wanted to give you. That's in their mind, but they don't realize that everything you ask for, you have to have in order to make them a loan.
In the good old days before 2008, if somebody had an issue, we could often work around it. Sometimes we'd charge a higher interest rate.
Maybe write a letter for them to sign at closing or something.
One of my underwriters' favorite sayings is an explanation is not documentation. And if they ask for a bank statement, a source of funds where the money came from, and the bank statement's 5 pages, we have to have all 5 pages. They have to be complete. They have to have the name and account number on it. And even if page 5 says page 5 left blank, we have to have it. And I have people black out their names, their deposits, their personal information.
I've seen that on tax forms where there's nothing on that.
Cannot do it.
Tax form,
Right.
But it's part of the package.
Have to have
They
it.
don't want to spend 20 cents to have it photocopied, so they don't. Or like you said, there'll be page 4 of 5 on their bank statement, and page 4 is just a blank page.
Have
Maybe
to
it's
have it.
where you do your reconciling.
Last year I was copying a customer's bank statement, and I cut the cents column off on page 4, and we sold the loan on the secondary market, and they kicked the loan back and said your file's incomplete.
And I've had people just say, I'm not going to buy the house if I have to run back and give you a blank page of paper, thinking that they're being picked on, and they're not.
No, so my suggestion, folks, is unfortunately the compliance thing continues. Every time the market starts to settle down, the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau comes out with some new and improved rules to help protect the consumer, which invariably drags the closing out, increases compliance, increases paranoid schizophrenia in the market, and makes it much tougher on the consumer than it was before. And we all want consumers protected, but the pendulum has swung so far the other way right now that it is difficult to get a home loan. And I don't want to discourage people from applying and getting one, but you need to be very patient, You need to give the underwriters and whatever they ask for, exactly what they ask for.
As soon as they ask for it.
And very completely. I mean, I have customers who drag their feet getting us information, and then it delays their closing.
And I'll make a recommendation. If you haven't gone out and got a home loan since 2008, you really should come to one of our finance workshops. We'll go over every type of financing, the down payment required, documentation, what it's going to take to qualify. Now, the finance workshop, is that still every month or every other month?
We're trying to do them every month. It's the second Wednesday of the month, every morning.
But what's really the workshop that everyone wants to come to is the reverse mortgage workshop.
I have people at that every time.
And these are high caliber workshops, folks. These are the same kind of workshops that realtors pay money for their continuing education for. They've all been approved by the Idaho Real Estate Commission. So if you'd like to come and learn about real estate finance or come in a whole workshop just on reverse mortgages, go to Property Line today, and where it says ask a question, just say I want to come to one of the workshops. We'll shoot you off a flyer and would love to have you come. There's no charge for it. Another article that I thought was quite interesting was headline, "To Hackers, Real Estate Agents Are Walking Around with a Big Bullseye on Their Back." Now, I'm a small little boutique real estate firm, but in the past 10 years, I've been hacked once. I had the white collar police come out and they verified that I had been hacked. I know our property management, we go to great lengths with firewalls and things so we don't get hacked, because we have a lot of personal information for the different landlords we represent. So we've got a lot of financial information. But they're saying that nearly 1 in 3 Americans this coming year will have their credit stolen. This year, 1 in 3, a third. And 11% will have their mobile device accessed without their authorization. So, and one of the things they're thinking is, now we heard of Uber. That's that application where some stranger picks you up off the street in their car and you pay them on PayPal. And they got some of their information stolen. There was Target. They had lost a lot of information. Major firms. Well, the banks, if you have someone steal your credit and then they go, charge something on your charge account, or they take the money out of your checking account, the banks, they have to make good by that. So the banks, they're taking all these losses. So now they're going and they're suing Uber and Target and all these other people who let their financial information out in the first place, and they're suing them for the damages the banks have incurred. And it can be sizable. So now they're thinking, with all this extra security for the big guys, we're going to go after the little guys. And what little guys have the most financial information about people other than these big box stores and so forth? And it's mortgage lenders, realtors, property managers. We've got names, social security numbers, work histories, that sort of thing. And they're really encouraging, if you're working with a realtor, if you're working with a lender, ask them, what is your security policy? How is this information going to be kept secret? I know a lot of firms, if they have to have financial information for a while on somebody, they'll put it on a computer that's not even part of the internet. It's not hooked up to the internet. It's not on their company. It just goes in there. They save it. They can always pull it off if they need it. And then on a regular basis, once the information gets old and dated, they get rid of it. But with nowadays, if you're developing client lists or that type of thing, you need to be very, very careful and make sure it's secure, because they're saying in this article, and they mentioned the FBI and that sort of thing, that the real estate industry is probably going to be the next industry that is hit major with these computer hackers. So just a little bit of words to the wise, as we say. Something funny, you heard of the Huffington Post? They mentioned this past week that homes that are located near Starbucks. Now, different things, create value. Golf courses, playgrounds, corner lots.
Parks.
You got it. Create value. Well, here's one that we know for certain because Huffington Post reported it. And actually it's significant. 96% of homes near Starbucks appreciate faster than they did in 1997 when it was only 65%. So the majority of homes near a Starbucks appreciate well. Now, isn't that good to know?
Tells how many people drink coffee.
Yeah, there is a lot of good news. I mean, the weather's great. Interest rates are still low. We've got more inventory to choose from. So buyers are feeling that spring. You know, last April is when we had the home prices rally to the highest point. Then they started falling off for the rest of the year. We're seeing that it's not as big a run up as last April, where we had about a 14% increase from the first of the year till April. It's now about 3%. And so we'll probably end the year at 5 or 6 like we did last year. But, you know, there's a lot of good feelings out. And one of them, U.S. consumer confidence rises. And, you know, it went up in November of last year. It was like 88.7. Then it went up to about 91 in December. Then it's been going 92, 93, 94. We're already at 96 for April. This is the highest it's been since February 2008. And that was just before
The Great Recession.
the Great Recession, when real estate, you couldn't, you know, it was the hottest commodity around. So it's good to see consumer confidence up.
Well, I just notice in general right now that buyers are much more confident. They're feeling better about the market. Market seems to be more active. I've noticed in our office and just as our company that the buyer side of things is improving. Rates are good.
Investors, I haven't seen any indexes other than I work a lot with smaller investors, and their attitude is changing. I'm seeing them, they're not looking for a 50, 100% return. They want to know they have a safe 10, 12, 13% return. That's kind of a change. And they don't want it next week. They're willing to take 3, 4, 5, 6 years to get their overall return. So I see investors mellowing out a little bit in the real estate market. You know, if it has a good 7% cash return, then they look at all the other benefits like the tax savings and equity buildup and future appreciation. They go, hey, 7%, that's better than I'm getting elsewhere. And so I see that. Interest in buying is increasing. Now, the Mortgage Bankers Association, which you're a member, from September through December of last year, we started seeing this slowdown. People, you know, they asked them a question, if you move, are you going to rent or you're going to buy? And it was, there was kind of, actually from about September of last year through the end of February, the answer was, I'm going to go rent. And now we're seeing that switch around to about 29, 1 in 3 are saying they would like to buy and not rent this next go around. And that's from the Mortgage Bankers Association. The other thing is mortgage applications. People going and actually applying to see if they're going to qualify for a mortgage, up 30%.
And we're seeing that. And I would encourage anybody, if they're thinking about buying a home this year, don't wait. Go ahead and apply. Go ahead and get started. 1, because if you find that right house, you're ready. 2, if you have anything credit-wise that needs to be fixed, it can take 3 to 6 months. It typically doesn't cost anything to go ahead and apply. You can go ahead and go through the process, see what you're approved for, how much you can buy, and it makes it so much easier if you start the process early and you're what they call certified mortgage ready, so that if you find that house, you can buy it.
Well, I say that should always be the first step.
And people don't do it, or they do it much too quick. They need to plan ahead a little bit. I think anybody who's thinking about buying a house easily should apply 30 to 60 days ahead, just to give us time to work through any details that you have. And an approval is always good for at least 90 days.
Sure.
And to update it, typically all we have to do is pull a new credit report.
You want to know, we talked a little bit about investors. You know, if you own anything other than your primary residence and you sell it and you make a gain, you have to pay capital gains taxes. And the way you can avoid paying capital gains is 1, you can do an installment sale, owner financing. 2, you can find someone to trade with, or you can do a 1031 exchange. Now, a 1031 exchange, you have to go out and get your replacement property, and you have 45 days to name your replacement property. I'm actually telling investors who have property to sell, before we list your home even, let's go get you approved for a loan. And they go, John, I'm selling a house. Why do I need a loan? And I says, well, if you want that one home to become two, you'll have more than enough, if we don't have to pay capital gains tax, to put 25, 30% down. You're going to have to borrow the rest. And it's been a while since a lot of these investors have borrowed. And it's not like just going in and shaking hands with the banker and then going and meeting them at closing.
And we miss those days.
And so I say, you're going to be, it's hard work, and they're going to treat you like a drug dealer. And
it takes time to work through the process. It can take several weeks.
So now, even with investors, even if they're investors with homes to sell, I try to get them pre-approved so that when their house sells, we can feel confident that we're going to be able to close on those homes because they qualify for non-owner occupied financing. It's very important. And home prices going up doesn't make as big a difference on the pocketbook each month. It's just a little bit of difference in the interest rate. I tell you, if you can get a low interest rate, that's better than if you have to pay a little bit more for the home. And they are low. We have historically low interest rates.
Still interest rates are around 4%. And people think that, interest rate is going to have a dramatic, difference in their payment. And to give you an example, an 1/8 of a point difference in interest rate on a $150,000 house changes the payment about $13 a month.
Now, I can remember in January we did a show and I talked about the Fed economists. And the Fed economists had come out and they, none of them thought that the interest rate would be over 4% by March 18th. 4%, only 4% of them thought that it would be 4% by April 29th and around the corner, right? And the majority, about 25%, thought it would be over 4% come June 17th. Well, we kind of poo-pooed them. We thought, well, there's no reason we might not have these low interest rates, below 4% rates on through summer of 2015. But we encourage people that, even though they went back down, they could go back up. All the economists were wrong. We're now back at that 4%.
Yeah, we had a nice dip there early on, but we've gained back everything that we had in a drop. And so, folks, don't let interest rate news affect your buying decision. If you're thinking about buying a home this year, the sooner the better. Yeah. Rates are low right now. And a rise in interest rates can certainly affect your buying power, but it's not going to be that dramatic.
And I think we're safe in saying, it's awful hard. I mean, even the top economists at Fannie Mae couldn't predict when they'd go back over 4%. But they knew they were going to be going back up, and we knew they're going to be going back up, and they are at a historical level. And so if you can buy now and lock in and get these low rates, I think it's going to behoove them because we will see higher rates. They'll be closer to 5. I don't know when, but I'm thinking by next year for certain they'll be in that 5% range. And as long as they stay under 6%, that's historically low rates for mortgages. So Fannie Mae did a survey recently, and people feel wealthier. That's a good sign. They did their national housing survey, and 29% of the respondents said their household income was significantly higher over the last 12 months. And 48%, nearly half, expected their financial situation to improve this coming year. So I think that's a really, really good sign. The realtors, there's a realtor confidence index, and they go out and they survey 50,000 realtors. In fact, I'm part of that survey here in Idaho. And the realtors feel, this is their confidence index, that mortgage rates will stay low. They're optimistic about that. They're a little down. They feel that there should be more inventory, but we're seeing increased inventory. They're a little down because it's still hard to get a mortgage. But they're seeing more and more people go out and look, which is optimistic. And they're saying spring, that's now folks, spring 2015, and for the next 6 months should be great times to buy. So that's the realtors being confident. And so if we talk about the actual numbers to date, we're at the end of first quarter 2015. And the number of homes sold first quarter versus first quarter last year, it's up 2%. So that's good. The median home price is pretty close to where it was in April this time last year when it had gone up nearly 12%. The median home price is $223,900, so $224,000. Half the homes are higher, half are lower. There's a 3.7 month supply of homes. Now, a 3-month supply is considered a balanced market. When we have a 1-month supply, it's a seller's market. When we have over a 3-month supply, it's more of a buyer's market. Well, we're back to a buyer's market, 3.7, nearly a 4-month supply. So you're probably going to have a little bit better chance at asking the seller to pay closing costs, points for a lower rate, maybe do some painting, add some carpeting. So that's good news. Some bad news, if you have a home for sale, end of December, we were looking at 56 days for the fourth quarter of 2014, and now we're at the end of the first quarter of 2015, and the days on the market is 70 days. So we've added nearly 20 days homes sitting on the market. Some of that has to do with longer times to get loans approved once they sell, and some of it has to do with more inventory. But if you have a home, expect it to take a little longer to sell if it's priced right. New homes, new homes cost more than existing homes, and the median price for new homes is now $313,000. Now I want to stress this because I was out showing one investor that wanted to buy some higher end type properties in the $225,000, $230,000 range, and they kind of threw up their hands and said, why don't we just build? I saw some brand new homes for $230,000. And I had to sit down with them and explain new construction that everything above that base price is an extra. And I said, you want a covered patio? Extra. You want a fenced yard? Extra. You want landscaping and sprinklers? Extra. And that's how come these newer homes cost more. You might see that lower price in the window, but by the time you get everything you want in it, the granite countertops, the 6-panel doors, the stainless steel appliances, you're going to be paying more for new construction. And we got some great ideas if you're a millennial on how to do a social marketing open house, but they're not called open houses anymore. They're called reveals. You get on and you invite everybody you know to come to the reveal. They suggest having craft style beer, these locally produced brews that they make, these microbreweries, maybe having a local winery, have some food pairings, having some games for people to play. One of the interesting things is a selfie station. You know what that is?
I don't.
A selfie is when you take your cell phone and you take a picture of yourself, and they're saying when you have this flash mob come to your reveal, have some interesting places around the house that makes that home unique where they can do a selfie picture and then put that on the internet and says, hey, I'm at this really great reveal. Look at this bodacious fireplace. I don't know. So anyway, just some ideas there. We're going to take a quick break, folks, and when we get back, we're going to answer the questions that you sent us at www.propertylinetoday.net or have called in at 830-2557. Curtis and I will be right back. The Homes for Idaho Heroes program. If you're a veteran, a fireman, this home can be purchased with zero down. The seller will pay all of the closing costs. Never has to be paid back. Gift for your service. Well, folks, this is part of the show I love, and you love it too, don't you, Curtis?
I do.
It's answering the questions that you send us on buying, selling, or investing by going to propertylinetoday.net, going up to ask a question and send it to us, or you call in during the show at 830-2557. The first question for tonight is from Jen Latte, I believe is how you'd say her name. She says, I'm out looking at new homes and all appear too dark. Light wall colors, good lighting sources make a difference. I suggest to any homeowner remodeling with resale in mind, builders too, avoid dark cabinets with dark floors and black or dark granite countertops. A cave-like kitchen is not inviting nor comfortable cooking environment. I think most buyers would prefer light or white kitchens. What do you think? Well, I'll tell you, over the years, Jen Latte, I think white has always been a color that most people would live with. It's nice because it's a neutral color. It's a blank palette. You can change the look of the kitchen by maybe adding a red mix master and a red coffee maker, or a stainless steel coffee maker and a stainless steel microwave, and give it a nice new look. I can tell you, Jen Latte, it does seem that the current markets for new construction are the dark cabinets and the dark floors, a lot of bamboo, dark cork, your walnuts, your dark cherries, that type of thing. And I think it's kind of dark. I do like the lighter. I've had white. My favorite is the softer, like maples, alders, ash, those type of cabinets, the softer wood. I'm very tired of oak.
Well, oak is getting old.
It is.
And Jen, my only response to that would be, it's just strictly personal preference. You're never going to get everybody to say that they like light or dark. People are different. They have different tastes and different combinations. That's why if you walk in different houses, you have all of these different aspects with light and dark, everything from oak to bamboo to the very dark.
It does seem that builders come out maybe every 10 or 15 years with something that kind of marks that decade. And you go, boy, that's a house from the 70s, or that's a house from the 60s. You can remember the Mediterranean look with the wrought iron and the dark cabinets. Every time I see that, I go back to the 1970s.
How about the metal cabinets?
The metal cabinets.
We had in the 60s, they were metal.
Sure, and then there was the lime green or gold carpeting. With
orange shag.
And the orange and lime green countertops, with matching appliances, by the way, and toilet fixtures. So, there are fads, and I kind of feel that this really super dark look is kind of a fad. Yeah. And I think I'd probably stay away to something that's more traditional, universal, attracts more people, especially like she's saying if you're thinking about reselling.
Right. The next question is from April. Is being across from a kids park a good thing? I guess people with kids would like it, but for overall market appeal, would it increase value? Well, April, that just really, in my opinion, depends on whether you have kids or not.
Yeah, it's like being on a golf course. A golf course is an amenity. It increases values, but the people that it increases values for are primarily golfers. You can be in your living room and somebody hits a long ball, it hits your roof, you get all excited. Wow, that guy's going to do a par 3 or whatever, got a big stroke, must be on male enhancement drugs or something. You get a golf ball through the window and you don't worry, the insurance covers it. But I've lived on a park before. And kids,
I have too.
They don't like to stay on the sidewalks. If they can cut through my backyard to get to they will. And so, a little bit of a privacy problem. Sometimes a noise problem. Sometimes during the summer, you'll get the teenagers staying out late doing their, after dark stuff that's kind of noisy. So April, it's certainly just if you have kids, you're probably going to love it. If you have a dog, you're probably going to love it.
When I had 4 kids at home and we lived across from a park, it was fantastic because we basically had an extension of our yard. We could walk across the street with the dogs and the kids, and it was much nicer. And so I think it's more of a draw.
Yeah, I would say it's a draw.
Than a detriment for most people.
Yeah, I like it because I kind of have our lawn man come the same day that the lawn man for the park comes. So when people pull up, it looks like we just have this great big, acreage for a lot, so
I think open space is always a positive
it is.
for people as far as recreation and kids.
And if I had to look across the street, April, to something, if I could look into a park, I'd rather look into a park than, somebody else's.
Living room.
Exactly. So maybe overall being next to a park, if your realtor said, now this is an amenity, it's going to make the home more valuable, he might be partially correct. I don't know. The next question is from Leanne. Leanne says, I want to buy, but honestly, most of the homes I look at, I can't, for the life of me, see how my furniture is going to fit and what I can afford. I carry the dimensions of my sofa, tables, and other stuff I own. Any ideas? I don't say build one because I have this problem even when I look at floor plans of new homes.
Well, Leanne, first of all, John and I kind of talked about this a little bit, and we think you're majoring in minor things.
Yes.
You don't need to find a bigger house. You need to find different furniture, Leanne, that will fit into a house that you like. So disregard the measurements. Craigslist is an amazing
Furniture
thing.
is so cheap.
Find a house that you like, that you think will work for you with location and square footage and bedrooms and bathrooms. That is what is important when it comes to buying a house. And then once you find a house you like, buy the furniture to fit it. You will be so much
Your
happier.
house will look more expensive. It'll be more spacious. People come over and won't believe how much room you have. And part of owning a home is decorating it. Finding that perfect thing to go in that niche, the perfect table to go against that short little wall. Now, I understand a lot of people, they get antiques that are carried down from generation to generation. But, for the most part, buy new furniture, April. It's Leanne. It's a lot of fun. I have a friend that lives in Caldwell. She bought a big house with a 3-car garage. She's single. And she loves to go on Craigslist. And I went in her 3-car garage. She has the most beautiful leather furniture. She has the most beautiful floral furniture. And she has enough furniture basically to change every season, different furniture. She's bought it all on Craigslist. It all looks like new. And so her problem is, what furniture do I want to put out? So, when you're looking at the big picture, Joanne, really the furniture, it doesn't mean much.
Yeah, Leanne, you're going about it backwards. Buy the house and then.
But there
work
are
on the
people, I
furniture.
see them. In fact, they even sell apps now where you can take a picture of a room with your cell phone and you can put furniture in. We have staging programs where we can take a vacant house and we can put art on the wall. We can put couches and chairs in the room. And we do this because a lot of people just cannot visualize size, dimensions, how things fit. So if you're one of those kind of people, there are some apps you might want to check into. Let's see, is it my turn or is it yours? I think it's your turn with Shelley.
The next one is from Shelley. If a home has any kind of odor, it turns me off. I don't like the smell of dogs, cats, and don't care for the smell of fresh paint and carpet. I really don't like the idea of having to live with some stranger smell. Any way to avoid looking at smelly homes, smell in capital letters, has a dramatic effect on some people. Well, first of all, Shelley...
Well, not some people, I think all people. That
I
seems
think
to be the
almost
number one
everybody.
turnoff.
Yeah, but on the other hand, she almost wants to live in a glass house.
Could be. And some people are more sensitive than other people.
But the problem is, if you build a new house...
You got the formaldehyde
You've
smells.
got carpet, paint, and all of
the acetone
that.
smells, all that.
And if you buy an existing house, I'm sorry, people are going to live there. So...
I had a client one time who was very... I don't think he was a hypochondriac, but he was very sensitive to smell. He would break out in rashes, and we had tried a new home, and he had the trouble. We tried existing homes, he had the trouble. So there are people I know that are very, very sensitive to smell. There is a product very few people use in the town. I think I've only used it once or twice in 20 years. It's called an ionization machine. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
It's called an ionization machine. And I believe that one of the rental stores here in town has one. They're quite expensive. I know you can't be in the house when the ionization machine is on.
Neutralizes the odors.
It does. And I've used it when one time there was actually a dead cat in the crawl space. And you talk about smell, I didn't think they would ever get that dead cat smell out of the house. They went to Tate's Rent, they got, I think it was Tate's Rent, and got this ionization machine. They let it run 2-3 days in the house. Smell was gone.
Well, another problem is it's pretty hard to detect odors on a virtual tour online,
Yeah.
John. You know,
Well,
and so
there's no-
unfortunately you can't
Yeah.
preview it with that particular
Sure.
aspect in mind, which is a whole nother challenge. And so, Shelley, I guess whatever real estate agent you're working with, be sure you let them know how sensitive you are. Ask them to preview the homes.
Sure, and it's smelling, you like it, everything except this smell. Have your agent put in other terms and conditions that the seller's going to pay to have the home
Carpet
ionized.
cleaned,
Carpet cleaned.
ionized.
Another big one, Shelley, is having the ventilation ducts cleaned. You'd be surprised. I had a house with a terrible odor one time. We couldn't figure it out. We hired a heating and air man to come out and clean the ducts. You wouldn't believe the hair, the lint, the toys,
They came out of it.
They came out of it, and a lot of other things I don't want to mention. But you know, just having the heating and cooling ducts can really make a big difference.
So I don't know, Shelley, other than what we've talked
Yeah,
about.
there's not a search block
for
you know,
for a-
smell, not smell, like, you know, like they have bedrooms and baths and size of garage. They don't
Garage
have,
and-
does the house smell, yes or no?
You know how and when you're saying how does something pass the sniff test, I don't know with Shelley exactly how that's going to work, other than just let your agent know how sensitive you are. Obviously, any kind of pets are out of the question for whoever. You know, if you eliminate all the pets immediately,
That would make a difference.
that would probably help. And then just hope a single person that's a clean, neat freak. And then between the ionization and having it completely professionally cleaned is probably the best
and
chance.
maybe this isn't politically correct, I don't know, but you know, some ethnic cooking gives off some really pungent odor. And you know, if you're raised with you know, fermented cabbage and whatever, it doesn't smell. But for a lot of people, it really does smell. And it might be something you would ask your agent, does my home smell? Because you may not even know it smells. I've actually gone to homes where people have like 3 cats.
They can't smell
And
them.
say, what are we going to do about the odor? And they'll go, what odor? They don't even smell the cats.
No, well, you get sensitized to it.
Oh, okay. Well, it must, because it did. So I hope that gives you some ideas there, Shelley. The next question is from Pat and Ross. Thanks for going to propertylinetoday.net and asking the question. They say, I called our agent our realtor, and he promptly said he was our broker. And on another occasion, we referred to him as our salesman, and he said he preferred consultant. He acted a bit perturbed both times. So are there any other words we should be aware of so that we can be PC?
Well, Pat and Ross, first of all, just asking what he would be preferred to be called by. Typically, it's fine to be called my realtor.
Sure. Now, when you say my realtor, you're acknowledging that he's a member of the National Association of Realtors, and he conducts his business under the highest ethical terms. So that would be good. But now, Pat and Ross, if he's a real estate broker, not an agent, he's worked very hard to take the classes and do everything the state of Idaho requires to be a broker. A broker is over agents. They can have agents working for them. They can have their own company, where an agent has to work for a broker. So I have noticed some people, if you say, he's my real estate agent, he'll correct and say, no, I'm your real estate broker, you know, because he's worked hard for that. You know, and I think salesman, no one likes to be called a salesman, especially if you're working with younger people, this millennial generation, they hate salesmen. And so I think a lot of people try to, the technical term is brand themselves as a trusted advisor.
Buyer's agent.
A buyer's, a lot of things I talk about being on the show, because like I like to be considered a trusted agent, a counselor.
Trusted advisor.
Exactly.
And so a lot of it, it's funny how people are sensitive, Pat and Ross, as to what you call them. And as you said with salespeople, you know, everybody likes to buy, but nobody likes to be sold.
Well, and even bankers. I can remember there was a time that some mortgage lenders, If you call them a mortgage broker and they were a mortgage banker or vice versa,
take offense.
they would take, I'm not a mortgage banker, I'm a mortgage broker. I work extra hard to find you the right loan. I mean, I've heard that 100 times in my lifetime. So I think it's probably with both the mortgage and the marketing side of the real estate business.
So Pat and Ross, just ask your realtor,
Yeah.
what would you like for us to refer you as, broker, realtor, real estate agent, etc. And that way you don't, and it's a perfectly legitimate and reasonable question to ask.
And a lot of people, probably even me, take it seriously. I kind of like being known as, Glenn Beck. He's a talk show host. I'm one of Glenn Beck's trusted real estate agents he can trust. I mean, they did vet me, but I'm sure a lot of people could be that. I'm a Dave Ramsey endorsed service provider. That's kind of nice to have some people on the radio say that, you're on their team. So I think it's kind of important, but it shouldn't be that important.
All right. The next question is from Daryl. How much does it cost to have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square foot home staged? Do you feel it is worth the money? Who should pay for this, the owner or the real estate company? I saw virtual staging online. Is this cheaper? Do people feel cheated when they see a vacant home after seeing the catalog picture? Is there a company that offers this in the Boise market?
Well, that's a lot of questions there, Daryl. To have a home professionally staged, and we used to have 4 or 5 staging companies in town. I think we're down to maybe 2. But there are companies still in town that will do it. They normally charge per square foot or the number of rooms that they use. If you have somebody come out and set some place settings in the kitchen, put out some flowers, some really pretty shower curtains and matching towels and that sort of thing, you're probably looking around $350 to $500. If you have somebody bring in furniture and mirrors and wall hangings and really make it look like a model home, it's usually going to run 1 to 1.5% of the purchase price. So you could be looking $2,000 to $3,000. Your next question is, do you feel it's worth the money? Oh, everything I've read in personal life, a staged home is going to sell faster. It's going to sell for anywhere from right around 15% more. That's why builders have model homes, is because staging works. That's why mobile home dealers show them staged, because they found over the years they sell faster and for more money. People have trouble, just like this other lady, figuring out where their furniture is going to go. You have a person that puts a couch at an angle or a bed at an angle or hangs up the towels in a special way. They go, I could do that. Our furniture would fit. Most people, they just line the furniture up around the wall, and if the couch is longer than the wall space, it doesn't work for them. So, and then let's see the next question, virtual staging. We've had on the show a couple times. In fact, Treasure Valley Community TV will do not only property videos, but virtual renditions. And they can stage. They can put furniture, wall hangings. They can actually put a show on the TV. They can actually put a fire in the fireplace and make it look real. So, and how do people feel cheated?
I think most people know, when they're looking online that's not going to necessarily actually be, because let's face it, people are disappointed
I know
and
that
surprised.
some builders, they'll build the same model and they may only stage one of them. So just to be on the safe side, they'll say pictures similar to existing home. You'll probably see that as you do your searches. So they don't want you to think the home's staged when you go look at it, because it may not be. I don't think people feel cheated. I just think it gets them excited about wanting to go take a look at it.
And the whole idea is to either get them to the house or to have them feel good about it once they're in the house. And I think, Daryl, we can safely say that staged homes sell better, faster, or for more money.
But you're right. The main idea is to get them to go look at the house. So, Daryl, if money's the question, you can't spend $500 or you don't have $1,500 to have the home entirely staged, you might want to consider a virtual rendition or virtual staging. They run for between $99 and $200. So it's going to be far cheaper. At least you get them to the door. And then if they want to know, how did they have that couch, they can go back and look at it online, right? I think we're doing pretty good here on the questions. Ben K, do holiday homes make for good investments? I hear you can finance with as little as 10% down and get a better rate. What are the home prices like in Australia? Okay. That's an unusual term, holiday homes. If you're going out buying a summer cabin, I think that would be a holiday home. Are they going to treat that as a second home for down payment and interest rates?
Yes, and the key with it, we'll call it a second home, holiday home, is it typically has to be more than 50 miles away from your primary residence.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then they typically need at least 10% down.
Okay.
There aren't any available that I'm aware of without at least 10% down. You need mortgage insurance then if you've only got 10, unless you can get to 20% down. So sure.
Is the interest rate less than going out buying
It's
a
about
rental?
the same as a primary residence,
Okay.
close enough to not matter. Sometimes they're sold in a little bit different pool on the market, which might make a slight difference in the interest rate, but nothing of any consequence compared to the big hit that you take once you start buying investment properties. And there are only 3 types of properties out there in the
Can
world,
they
in my
use them
world.
as a rental at all?
No,
No. Okay, so
no. Part of the problem with buying a second home is you can't count rental income in it.
okay.
And so they're
In
going to hold.
qualifying, you
Yes. So what's going to happen is they've got to
be able to qualify for 2
both
payments or pay
mortgage
cash.
payments,
Or, yeah.
or you have one paid off or
Right.
something. Otherwise, they're going to hold both mortgage payments against you. And so no, you can't buy something as a second home and then rent it
But
out.
let's say they can qualify to have 2 home mortgages. Can they, let's say it's up in McCall, can they rent it out? They're not winter people, they're summer people. Could they rent it out during the winter and then have it be their second home in the summer?
Technically not.
So no.
Here's why. If you buy it as a second home, you get better terms, 10% down,
And I think
better
that's what
rates.
Ben's asking about. You get
Right,
about half
and
the down
the problem
payment.
is if you represent it as that and then you turn around and rent it, it's what we refer to as mortgage fraud.
Yeah. That's why
Which is
we're
a felony, will get you free room
Right.
and board, et cetera, and
And
you've got a
then
whole separate set of
It's
issues.
not worth saving half the down payment or to get a lower rate. But, I've said for years, sometimes you're the best renter you can have. And if you find yourself, well, for instance, I was going to Denver a lot. I had a Denver office. It made sense to have a second home in Denver. And I didn't want to rent it out because I wanted it to be the way I wanted it when I got there each time. Or a small house in Hawaii or a summer cabin that you're not going to be able to rent. This is really a good opportunity. It's not as low as a primary residence, but certainly much less down than if you went out to buy a non-owner occupied
Save you
investment property.
10%.
And the interest rate's comparable. Normally, if you're going out buying a rental property, you pay a higher interest rate. And Curtis said that this is going to be closer to what you'd pay as if it was your primary residence. And Ben, I'll tell you, there are some areas that are hot. I mean, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Yellowstone, the Tetons. We're seeing those homes double in price every 5 years, Sun Valley's got pretty high appreciation. McCall's doing pretty good. But then, sometimes you have some tamaracks and some Cascades, and you could also see them go down. But right now, overall, vacation property across the country seems to be a pretty good investment.
Well, right now, I think most real estate across the country in general is
It's
on
a
the
good
upside.
investment, sure. And so, Ben, if you don't mind being the world's best renter for your own property, that's great.
Otherwise, Ben, if you're thinking about it as an investment as a rental property, just put 20% down
Sure.
and buy it as an investment property, because then you can count the rents on the property that you're
But
buying.
then you got the problem with IRS that you can't use it as much as you want to use it and then keep it as a rental property, because that was one of the things that made me want to not rent my Hawaii property, is because we wanted to use it more than what IRS said we could use it each year and still keep it as a rental. So there are some rules there you'd like to, you need to check on. And there's some ways around that. I can't remember. I think they allow you 16 days a year use, and you can still count it as a rental unit. But then they make a provision that if you have painting or repairs, that's not counted in those 16 days. So if you want to use something more than those few days IRS allows each year, then you might schedule your work projects around the visits to your rental property and your vacation locations. So I hope we just thoroughly confused Ben. But I like that, holiday homes. Home prices in Australia. Well, you know, Australia is a continent, so that's kind of like saying, what are home prices like in the United States? And in Australia, home prices are going up. They had a little bit of a falter when we had our recession. They had a recession too. If you look in major cities, you're going to be paying major city prices. I mean, I'm sure that in Sydney, there's $1 million apartments and up. You know, if you get out in the opal farms, you know, where they live underground in hollowed out caves and that are real nice, you might be looking at 75 to 100,000 for a nice home. So again, that's going to depend, Ben. And then the last question comes from Q, or QUE. Q says, would it be legal if I have RV parking to rent the space to a tiny homeowner?
Well, first of all, Q, what it's going to matter is what your homeowners association says.
Sure.
You can do would be question number one, because a
lot
lot
of
them
these
won't
tiny
allow
homes
that.
that you see on TV, they look like vacation. They look like travel trailers is really what they look like. A lot of them.
Because a lot of HOAs won't let you keep campers parked
Sure.
in the driveway or next door. They also have problems or issues with rentals in the home. So check with your HOA first to see what they will or won't allow. The other thing with a tiny home is how are you going to handle water, sewer, utilities? Because you have
Sure.
to have some way to hook up and deal with that most regular homes aren't going to have that.
Q, I would just have to take this. I've never dealt in tiny homes, so I'm really not sure. I really think it's probably the craziest housing fad that's come way down. It's kind of like just how much pain can we, take on, to live someplace. I mean, they get down like 350 square feet. I mean,
They do.
I've seen bedrooms bigger than that, and they're going to live their whole life in something that small. But Q, I do know that subdivisions that allow RV parking, some of them require that it be fenced and not be seen from the street. You can pretty well find that out easy if you're out looking. A lot of these tiny homes I've seen have composting toilets. So if you're going to have a composting pile in your backyard, check and make sure the HOA allows you to have a composting pile in your backyard. You can probably hook it up to your own water through a hose bib, extension cord, I guess, for power. Because I've seen people with motorhomes, they'll leave them running use them for guests. I've seen people with these great big 3-car garages with the tall garage door. A lot of those will actually carpet the bay and they'll drive the motorhome in and have it all wired up so that they can use it as a guest bedroom or an extra kitchen if people show. I've seen that. So Q, I think you probably could have a tiny home if it was approved for RV, and you could probably figure out a way for the utilities. I think the biggest problem is renting the space to someone. It would be almost like turning your home into a mobile home park or something. It may go against zoning laws and what CC&Rs for the subdivision and that sort of thing. But another way I would probably look at it, Q, and we're just about out of time, is you see these people that have these little storage buildings out in back. Some of those have power. I've even seen some that have water. So if you're in a subdivision that allows shop buildings or those little portable storage houses, because a lot of these tiny houses are much bigger than those storage sheds, I think you'd probably get away with it. What you would charge, I don't know. I would guess the lot is normally 20% of the total value. So if you have a tiny house and it's $100,000, where it sits should probably be worth around $20,000. So if we were to look at $20,000 under normal interest rates, use that to figure out a payment. You know, 20,000 right now is probably going to be around $150 a month if you do
100.
100.
You can use $5 1,000.
$5, that's right, $5 a thousand. So
So-
it'd be $100 a month that you might want to charge somebody to park there. I hope we don't go there. Well, that's all the questions. I'd like to thank all of our listeners who took the time to go to propertylinetoday.net, ask your questions, or called in during the show at 830-2557. If we didn't get them on this show, we'll get them on next week's show, so you be watching. Thank you, Curtis, for coming in and helping.
Hey, John.
And like I've said for many a year, until next week, keep your feet on the ground, but keep reaching for the stars. And may God bless each and every one of you. Bye now.
American Pacific Mortgage is a multi-state corporation supported by mortgage professionals who live and work here in the Treasure Valley. The office is at 8921 Hackmore Drive, just off South Maple Grove. American Pacific Mortgage treats you as an individual, not a number. They are a local equal housing lender with underwriters who know the area. Finding the right loan for you is the goal. They have a wide range of loan products: FHA, VA, refinance, home equity, and reverse mortgages for seniors. More on the web at thelendingspot.com or phone 629-4959, NMLS number 1850.